Welcome to Franchise Spotlight, where we showcase unique franchise opportunities that give you the chance to build wealth, create a legacy, and take greater control of your future. Today we're exploring lime painting, a franchise built around serving the top tier of residential properties with premium painting, restoration, and project management services delivered through a professional, subcontractor-powered model. Let's put the spotlight on lime painting. Today, I'm happy to be joined by Austin Luke, who's a franchise development director with Lime Painting. I want to thank you, Austin, for being here with me today to answer my questions.
Scott, I appreciate you having us on. I'm excited to talk more about lime painting.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in real quick. Let's ground our audience here first. Let's start with the basics of the Lime Painting brand. A franchisee of Lime Painting, what services do they offer, and who are their ideal customers?
Scott, there is over 40 standardized and vetted services that we have to offer.
Okay.
So the list is pretty long. We could probably spend about 30 minutes on all these, really value propositions we have for high-end homeowners, and that's really what we're going after.
Mhm.
So really, we're looking for these $1 million, $2 million custom-end homes, high-end
Mhm.
homes, and ultimately, we're offering surface restoration, painting, and coating surface services. I think if we group the 40 into those three kind of main components, that's a really good place to start. But really, what we do is we come in and work with this high-end homeowner who is
Mhm.
probably had their estate or home for many years. And we really are doing three things. We're protecting the home from wind, water, and sun damage with painting and
Mhm.
coating.
Mhm.
So we first educate that homeowner on what any type of damage could be present. And then we talk to them about the remediation of that damage. And then ultimately, the real value is protecting that home, probably the most highest asset in their portfolio,
Mhm.
from that damage, wind, water, and sun. So, those 40 different services come into effect in a lot of different phases of that project, whether it's, replacing a few pieces of siding before we paint and prep, whether we're, restaining and resurfacing a custom wood door, whether we're recoding metal light fixtures and things like that,
Mhm.
the scope can become very vast.
Okay. No, thank you for that. That's when we hear lime painting, we get the painting part, but thanks for painting that bigger picture for us.
That's right.
So we will say this though, painting companies, I mean, most people who aren't in the painting industry, they're all going to sound similar on the surface, right? You hear a painting company, you think painting. So you touched on it, but maybe dive a little deeper. What distinguishes lime painting from other contractors in the category, other painting companies?
Good question. I think we need to open up that high-end homeowner can of worms a little more. So,
Okay. Yep.
really, everything that we do is a very narrowed sniper rifle approach opposed to shotgun approach when we're talking about customer acquisition. And so
Mm.
when we build our franchisees territories, we actually build those out with the top 30% of home values in mind in their direct local market. So from the
Okay.
very beginning, we are targeting these higher end homeowners, our training, our marketing plans once the territory is established, even our
Mhm.
sales model, which is the respin model, we call it, sort of
Right.
proprietary to us. It's the spin model that everyone knows. We've just taken some things from that, made it the Lime way. But
Okay.
all of that diction is for this high-end homeowner, right? And
Mhm.
so when we're able to get in front of the right people that have this, connection with this home and this really high value asset, we're not just painting walls. We're really helping these families fall in love with their home again and providing really large transformative projects.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, no, that's very helpful. So premium customers, right? These are high-end homeowners with valuable estates that they're trying to take care of. Premium positioning, though, only matters if customers believe in it. And just because people have money doesn't mean they just want to spend money, right? So why are lime painting customers willing to pay a premium for services that, lots of people are offering it? A guy can hang a shingle and start painting, right? So
Yeah.
what is it about the experience of working with a lime painting franchisee that makes it worth a premium?
It certainly starts with the over 40 services that we're able to offer. So we really
Mm,
can come into this homeowner and be that one point of contact for
mm,
this individual. And then they're not managing a siding person and a painter and a pressure washer and a carpenter and a masonry, the whole 9 yards. We're able to
mm,
build that relationship and then provide those services and ultimately build that trust, right? The second piece of that, along with offering all of these services, ultimately is the franchisee, Scott, building that
mm,
relationship with the customer, gaining that trust, but really educating the customer on what these services and how they're providing value to this home. And ultimately, like I said, protecting the home and helping that client, Miss Betty or Mr. Steve, fall in
mm,
love with that home again.
mm. Okay, cool. Thank you. So let's pivot away a bit from the actual services that are being delivered. Let's talk
Sure.
about good candidates for a lime painting franchise. I think about fit. Fit between a franchisee and the franchisor. It's a very important part of evaluating a franchise. What are the traits in the background that tend to correlate with a really strong lime painting owner?
The backgrounds are all over the place. We've
Hmm.
had preachers, we've had used car salesmen, we've had
Okay.
ex-corporate guys and gals. I
Hmm.
think some of the common traits, and this goes really far. Lime actually stands for love, integrity, mission, and excellence. So
Oh.
right there, high valued individuals, we definitely it's that our team is made up of that. When
Hmm.
franchisees get into validation, they're going to hear those values, not necessarily exactly word by word, but you'll hear from our franchisees, our current owner stories, that those values really weigh heavily on them as well, right? So it
Hmm.
starts there. Um, Passion for community service, I think, also aligns with those values, and ultimately, that community engagement aspect is certainly necessary for our business model. We
Hmm.
are definitely need salesmen and saleswomen, people that have that
Hmm.
aptitude to build relationships, be told no, make cold calls, go out and
Hmm.
have lunch and learns, the whole 9 yards. And that is really pivotal for the launch of this business, especially in those first 12 months.
Okay, interesting. So it sounds like it's a sales driven, not like a digital marketing driven, where you just run a bunch of ads and get a bunch of leads in,
Certainly.
right? When you say lunch and learn, like who are you presenting to? Like what's the
Yeah.
venue? What's the audience?
That could be a real estate brokerage firm. So real estate
Okay.
agents, a lot of
Hmm.
times when people are moving in, one of the first things they do is go to repaint. You know,
Mm.
we
Hmm.
could be general contractors. It could be a Rotary Club or a
Hmm.
Chamber of Commerce. Part of our onboarding plan with our franchisees is finding their local Chamber of Commerce, helping them get engaged with them, and setting up that ribbon cutting ceremony. Right.
Hmm.
So gathering community together, ability to build those relationships. A lot of people need painting done, commercial and residential. We just
Hmm.
have to be the one to call, and that starts with the handshakes.
Very good. All right, very good. So we talked about who's a good fit. So people who have those shared values, people who are comfortable networking and meeting people, whether they come from a traditional sales background or they're just good with people, right? That typically that's what
Exactly right.
sales means. You know
Yep.
how to help people influence themselves into a good decision. But just as valuable as finding the right person, helping aspiring owners rule themselves out early is a good idea too, right? Who's
Sure.
not a good fit for this type of business? Like people who could listen to this, conversation we're having and say, "Yeah, I would not want to be a lime painting franchisee because I'm not a fit." Who would those types of people be?
Yeah, very transparently. If you don't want to come in and get your hands dirty to start and learn every part of the business, it's not a good
Hmm.
fit.
Hmm.
If you want to hire immediately and just semi-passively manage those people, your expectations will not align to what our current franchisees have. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Hmm.
Because some of our franchisees, we recently had our summit, so our annual conference where all of our owners to get together. One of the most impactful things they said is, you will not succeed if you don't learn every part of the business, from estimating to sales to managing the subcontractors, etc. All of
Hmm.
that can be managed and hired on later on through a production
Hmm.
manager and a sales manager, but understanding it firsthand to be able to then identify that person and talent, but also
Hmm.
help them succeed is certainly valuable. So we need hustlers. If you don't want to
Hmm.
come and hustle, it's not going to work out for you.
Great. Very good. Yeah, so people who are considering semi-passive or passive ownership, the investment model, this is not the business for them
Really
on
not.
day 1. Yeah. All
Nope.
right. Very good.
Not a we've
Mhm.
came across folks that have had this massive network of general contractors and things like that, and they've been
Mhm.
that's a little different situation. So,
Mhm.
we've seen those plays work at times, but it's a very
Mhm.
unique, individual and network that they have and the
Mhm.
ability to leverage that immediately.
Yeah. Now, do you have owners who have built have learned every aspect of the business, they understand how it all works, they've mastered it to the extent necessary, have delegated to experts, and maybe have grown to become executive owners, maybe multi-unit operators, or is that not a path that people
100%.
take?
We've got
Mhm.
4 owners that are actually operating in multiple states.
Okay.
Florida, Colorado, Arizona, Idaho.
Mhm.
It's been really impressive. So,
Mhm.
kind of our game plan is, we call it the 3 years to freedom, right?
Oh, okay.
We're looking at 3 years of working and putting in
Mhm.
that time with relationships in the community and finding that talent and training that
Mhm.
talent. Around that 3-year mark is when we've seen historically from our franchisees is when we can kind
Mhm.
of take that step back, if you will, and turn
Okay.
into much more of a, managing the manager position.
Mhm. Okay, good. So you have a path that you try to go through. I mean, certainly nothing's guaranteed in life, but
That's
at least
right.
that's what you're building toward. Okay, good.
For sure, and,
So
two of our, multi-state owners are actually 2 of our success coaches that work with our
oh,
franchisees, every month, and they actually come to new franchisees for grand opening training in their territory.
all right. Okay. So really experienced people who know the business, not people who read it in a book and are trying to
That's
teach others.
exactly right.
All right. All right. Good. Good. I love it. People want to know what life looks like if they choose this path, right? So what does the day to day look like? Let's say you're a first year Lime owner that doesn't have a big vast network of contractors in their Rolodex. Did I just date myself on that? In their
No,
contacts
I
on their
say
phone? Right?
Rolodex
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're much younger than me. Okay, good, good. Hey, what does the day to day look like during their first year? How are they spending their time?
So it's actually to me, it's really fun. You get to be out in the community. So you might wake up in the morning and go to a job site or a project. You're going to meet with
Mhm,
that contractor. You're going to meet with that client. You're going to make sure that everyone's on the same page and they know the expectations for that day. From there, you'll probably go out. You may pick up supplies that that contractor needs. You may go on a couple of sales appointments or proposal meetings or a new estimating meeting. So you're gathering a
okay.
scope. You may take
Mhm,
a real estate agent out to lunch. And then about this time, it's probably 3 or 4 o'clock. You'll go back to that project, check up on that contractor's work. You might door knock a few neighbors of that project, let them
mhm,
know who you are, how you can provide service in the neighborhood. You might even leave them a $5 gift card. Just say, hey, we're going to be on the street for about a week. We appreciate your patience. It's a
mhm,
great warm introduction to line painting. And then about 5 o'clock, you'll sort of wrap up the admin side of things,
mhm.
reconcile, make sure that the revenue is checked and cross verified, and have done any billing if necessary. And from there, ideally, hanging out with your family or playing golf or whatever you like to do.
All right. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. So it's a busy full day, managing the relationships, building new relationships, keeping the pulse on the jobs. Again, this is not a set it and forget it type business,
That's
but
right.
delivers a lot of value. Okay, good. One question that always comes up, regardless of concept or brand, comes up around finding and keeping qualified labor. Like when you're offering premium service, you need good
Hmm.
workers, right? So, how do Lime owners build reliable subcontractor relationships? What does an effective management of those subcontractors look like in the Lime painting model?
Yeah, so we've been doing this for about 10 years now. And
Mm,
early on, Nick Lopez, our founder, tried W-2. I mean, he went through it all to figure out what was going to be best.
mhm,
Ultimately, so part of our training, when our success coaches come to that franchisee, is going to be interviewing onboarding those subcontractors with them.
Mhm.
right? So we're bringing our experience to the table to make sure that you've got vetted contractors to work with. This is where I use Rolodex, Scott. But your
Okay.
Rolodex of subcontractors will probably be 3 to 5 painters, a carpenter, and a masonry to start. And then
Mhm.
as you grow, that Rolodex will grow, and you might be able to provide a little more services. But interestingly enough, because of our sort of luxury model and these higher end projects that we're gathering. And I'll go ahead and kind of get into some of the numbers. Last year, our average ticket was $19,000,
Mm. Okay.
19,400.
All
That
right.
is nearly 5 times higher than the industry standard in painting,
Mhm.
which is about $4,000. So
Mhm.
we're using that immediately to leverage these subcontractor relationships. They want those bigger jobs. It's economies of scale for them as well. They're making more money on them and they're having to
Mhm.
drive around a lot less, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And our suppliers, Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, PPG, are the key introduction to these contractors in the market. They know who's painting and who's applying
Mhm.
in the area and in the town. So they'll give us that list. We'll start interviewing with that new franchisee from there. We've already got the subcontractor agreement set up for them. So that subcontractor will hire that. They will onboard their insurance and the whole 9 yards, and then
Mhm.
we'll be ready to rock and roll. One of the unique things that we also have with the leverage of those contractors, 3 to 5 of them, is we will always take them a price. We will never ask
Mhm.
them, hey, how much are you going to charge me to apply this paint on the job? We're
Mhm.
working with that new franchisee to understanding the estimating, to understand the margins so that we can competitively come to that contractor. Hey, it's this amount, take it or leave it, because I've got 2 more guys waiting for you
Mm.
behind you.
Okay. Okay. So that's a skill that franchisees need to build is estimating and understanding, not just relying on a price coming at them from the subcontractors.
That's exactly right. Yep,
Okay, cool. So we've touched on this next one a little bit, but let's peel it back some more. A common question for aspiring owners is how they're going to get the new business, right?
sure.
How do Lime owners consistently generate leads? What marketing, what partnership strategies tend to work best in this space?
Yeah, so my experience in home service is that it's so much community engagement.
Mm,
I know that when I was in my landscaping business here in Jacksonville, really it was about 80% of leads that closed were referral word of mouth driven you
okay.
know? So when we really understand that, we have to, and we're very transparent with our franchisees, like that community engagement, the relationship building, the door knocking to start and launch is so imperative and so important, right?
Hmm.
So we work with the franchisee heavily on their market strategy to sort of penetrate that market. They've got a large list of zip codes. They could have up to 150,000 total households, right?
Mm,
So we are helping them identify these segmented territories of these very high end homes, right?
hmm.
We first want to start there with, yard signs, door hangers, canvassing. Digital marketing comes into play as well on the home office side. So
Hmm.
pay per click, specific direct mailers to those zip codes, search
Okay.
engine optimization in those zip codes, the whole nine
Mhm.
yards. So understanding that all of
Just to interrupt, are those digital marketing services, are those things the franchisee has to be an expert at, or are those things home office handles
home
for
office
them?
driven.
Okay,
Yep, home
okay.
office driven. I like to say that, it's not going to be a lot of the lead generation,
Mhm.
but everything that can be done not in their territory, home office is handling.
Okay, okay,
In their territory, they need to handle relationships, relationships, relationships.
okay, great, great. Alright, so we've established that we're serving high-end residential clients. What about commercial work? Do you do select commercial work? Um, how
We
should they
do.
think about okay. How
We
should
do. So
owners think about that mix?
yeah, let's break that down. So
Yeah,
system wide, we're really about 2/3 residential and a third commercial.
okay.
That can flip for some franchisees. In our
Mhm,
system, it has. Some from others, they're much more residential. Typically, when we're starting out our business, we really recommend our new owners focus on residential, really because of a cash flow reason.
mhm,
So in this world, we take for residential projects, we get a 50% deposit to be placed on the schedule, and then we get paid the remaining 50% once the work is done.
Mm,
In the commercial world, there's really no such thing as those deposits, especially not 50% of the project.
mm,
And also, the turnaround times on that pay are usually net 60 to net 90. So then
mm,
our franchisees got a lot more money out up front for the material and the labor, and then they're waiting a much longer time to get paid. So
mhm,
really in year two is when we start, okay, let's start promoting and engaging and driving leads for that commercial work, right?
mhm, mhm.
Now,
Okay.
that's not to say some of our franchisees in their first year had a $20,000 commercial project. That's manageable.
Mhm,
In our first year, are we going to have a new franchisee potentially sign up for a $300,000 apartment home complex that they've got to come out 120 on to start? And it's a 10-month project and they're not going to get paid until after the last one's done. That
mhm.
might not be a good idea starting our business.
Fair enough. Mhm. Okay, good. So the mix is it happens, but for good reason. Part of the system is let's focus on those residential, faster cash flow type jobs that can get the business healthy before picking up those other contracts.
You got it.
All right, cool. So the strength of a territory, especially when we think about luxury residential homes, the strength of the territory matters. How should someone evaluate whether their local market might be a strong fit for lime painting?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the great things to do, through our diligence process is compare some of our current locations
Hmm.
to your location,
Hmm.
demographically, population-wise, and when you get a chance to talk to those owners, understand how they've done, and what
Hmm.
their gross sales look like and things like that.
Hmm.
I think ultimately we're very strict on one thing when we build territories. I mentioned that top 30% of real estate value earlier. Well, we're
Hmm.
really looking to have around 7,500 homes that are in that territory, in that demographic, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
every single territory we have in the United States has about 7,500 homes in the top 30%
Okay.
across the country. Now, that
Hmm.
top 30% will vary, right? Depending on
Hmm.
region. I know I've seen a Virginia territory and like the Princeton area is a $1.5 million territory. 1.5 and above is the top 30%. That's
Hmm.
phenomenal. If we
Hmm.
go to Valdosta, Georgia, where I'm originally from, that's probably going to be like a $500,000 territory, would be that top
Okay.
30%, right?
All right.
So that will vary regionally, but also will these pricings for the project will vary regionally with kind of that index, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's not just our customers, is the 7,500 homes, right?
Hmm.
We're using that metric to draw this geographical boundary. And then ultimately, there's around 120 to I've seen 160,000 homes in that whole territory that franchisee has to offer work. And we're going to be able to drive a lot of work out of $500,000 homes, $750,000 homes. I mean, for instance, I live in a very modest home, less than $500,000 I bought it for.
Hmm.
But I just paid last year $11,000 for an exterior paint job. We're going to
Okay.
take that job every single day of the week, you know?
Yeah, yeah. All right. No, no, thanks for that, Austin. That's a good explanation because, some people may look around and say, I don't have a bunch of, $5 million homes in my territory. Maybe I'm not a good lime painting, fit. But we do the concept scales to whatever
Yep.
the upscale is in the territory. Okay, very nice. Talk about a little bit about brand momentum, right? People want to know where the business is heading. Is this a growing concept? Is this a shrinking concept? What stage of growth would you say lime painting is in today? And like how many owners, how many territories are out there? What do you have today?
So we're at just at right at 30 owners, 30
Okay.
owners and about 92 territories.
All right.
So that averages out to about 3 territories per owner. But I
Mhm.
mentioned we've got a few owners that are operating in multiple states. Those are guys with 8, 9 territories.
Mhm.
So the median would look a little different if we looked at the overall territories per owner. But right now we are really, this past year, when anytime a system gets to 25 to 30 owners,
Mhm.
you sort of have to pull back the reins a little bit and you kind of
Mhm.
buckle down, make sure that we're really supporting what we have because
Mhm.
we know that once we get to 50, like the doors are kind of open, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this year, 2025, we spent a lot of time and energy investing back into the HQ team, our systems, some automated intelligence for the marketing side of things and reporting
Mhm.
and analytics on that marketing and digital side of things.
Mhm.
And we're really hitting 2026 with a lot of momentum. So we've actually got two people today at our Meet the Team Day in Denver, Colorado. So hopefully we'll
Outstanding.
have a third owner actually in this last 2 months of 2025. And
Mhm.
then January, it's looking like we're going to have four awesome candidates meeting in Denver with us for Meet the Team Day then. So we really have a lot of momentum now, right now, so we're really excited about. And ultimately, I really think that's from our current franchisees and
Mhm.
just how they're able to share their stories and what they've seen in this business.
Nice, nice. Okay, so good growth, early stage in the sense of, you're not an empire brand, you're not 500 plus territories out there, but you strong partnership model. This is a repeatable system. Processes are mature and established, and you're working with, like I said, at least 30 owners. So that's terrific.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about risks. Everybody wants to kind of be, have an open conversation about risks. How does the painting business and lime in particular perform during economic slowdowns, or perhaps during, like, when the housing market softens? Like, what have your owners experienced when those types of things happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, everything kind of turns down in the home service industry when those things are happening, right?
Right.
I know that right now we're kind of experiencing that with the holidays going on and people are getting a little
Sure.
cost sensitive for gifts and things like that.
Hmm.
But ultimately, we do as much work as we can, Scott,
Hmm.
right? So we have to get competitive on maybe we're not selling these $20,000 projects all over the place. Maybe we just need to start taking some inside home projects, do a room there,
Hmm.
and really start looking at commercial as well. I
Hmm.
know that in times of some of that uncertainty or that household downturn, apartment complexes can be a very good way because they can at times have an influx of residences. That's a
Hmm.
very good way to kind of keep that revenue going. So we sort of game plan that as a system and talk
Hmm.
about that. We all communicate on a channel. We're very kind of open with everyone. They all share templates and scripts and the whole nine yards. So getting creative to battle
Hmm.
that stuff is ultimately what you do. And you got to, do what you have to, right? And that means painting a room at times, you're going to paint a room at times.
Hmm. No, no. Thanks for the transparency on that. I mean, pivoting is the nature of being in business for yourself, right? Nothing ever stays the same. But it's good to hear that as a system, you have a plan. You know where to pivot to, what types of jobs still make sense and can keep a business, growing and thriving, even if there are times of, where the mainstay jobs may be changing up a bit. So that's good because everything's cyclical, right? Everything comes and it goes, right? So.
Certainly.
Excellent. Okay. Aspiring owners also really want to know what it takes to get started, right? So at a high level, what should someone know about, like, the typical investment range, the major cost categories? Like, what do they have to be thinking about, as they get ready to think about investing in a lime painting business?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's assume that we're going to really attack this 100% and we got a two territory owner that wants to come out
Okay.
of the gate and
Hmm.
rock and roll. So if we're looking
Hmm.
at two territories, including operating capital at about $100,000. So two
Okay.
territories and working capital about 100,000, we're going to be all in for about 240 to $250,000. So
Okay.
that would include your franchise fees. That would include your vehicle that is wrapped. That would include your grand opening marketing campaigns, insurances, training, your technology package, really the whole nine yards to get your business started and going. And then that working capital is there for, we've got some ongoing fees to start, like our technology and your marketing. So that's going to be
Hmm.
about $2,000 a month
Hmm.
that you're going to have to spend for that technology and marketing, right?
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
$100,000 can be allotted to that. Ultimately, that a year of those fees, you've still got about 75K remaining to work with to get this business
Hmm.
going. You may use that for your gas, for ongoing insurance, for additional marketing, etc.
Hmm.
But really, we use that figure because we want these franchisees to be in a really good spot to make good decisions to get their business to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Too often I have seen, and I've done it myself being a young man, you do not start with enough and you get into a pressure point and you got to make
Mhm.
some bad decisions to keep things rolling. And ultimately, you cannot scale from there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge risk to be undercapitalized, right? If you just don't have enough resources to keep the business going through that startup period. So that's a good call to capitalize properly and be ready for that first year. I think that's great. Okay, thank you. Um, how should someone think about the operational demand? So we've talked about a day in the life, right? We've talked about the investment to get started, but when we think about operating this business successfully, what do people have to know about this business? You mentioned relationships, community involvement. That's good, but from a day to day operations perspective, what do they need to know?
They need to know that every day is going to be different,
Okay.
truthfully.
Hmm.
You will have a new win that you've never expected before every day, and you'll have a new
Hmm.
loss that you never expected before every day.
Hmm.
Ultimately, our average gross sales last year was about $1 million. Well, if you're doing $1 million in work in painting, there is a lot going on that you get to, sort of manage this fun circus, right?
Hmm.
So there's going to be things, like I said, you're going to have new wins that you didn't expect every day and new losses every single day. It's
Hmm.
what you said earlier about being adaptable and pivoting in business is needed. Expect
Yeah.
that.
Okay. No, thank you for that. That's good. Let's talk about support. Strong support gives new owners confidence, right? If you feel support from home office, you're going to feel better about the work you're doing. So, what training, what onboarding does Lime provide to help a new owner gain traction quickly?
Yeah, so as soon as we sign franchise agreements, we are on that franchisee's team, right?
Mhm.
That starts with our chief operating officer, Bethany Broughton, who's been with us 6 years now, has
Okay.
gone through this many, many times with franchisees. There's a 7 phase onboarding plan. Everything from getting that business on the admin side created to learning our business operating manual to learning the ins and outs of the painting world, right? And
Mhm.
setting up your vendor accounts and really the whole 9 yards through that 7 phase onboarding from the marketing to the actual getting work done, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Once that is completed, which should ultimately take about 30 to 45 days, we want to schedule a 2 part on site training with that franchisee that's done by our success coaches. So, those success coaches will go to that new franchisee for a 3 to 4 day period to start. And then a couple weeks later, we'll have another 3 to 4 day period of training.
Okay.
From there, obviously, they've got complete access to our HQ team that's made up of our chief operating officer, our chief financial officer, our chief project manager, our chief marketing officer, our president, our
Mhm.
founder. The team is there for the support. They have to be asked.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
not just going to run people's businesses for them.
Mhm.
And then that success coach, who is also a franchisee, is such a good relationship and coach to have in this franchisee's corner because that is sort of a opinion of someone that's been in their shoes and they've done it before and they deal with home office and they've built the business. And so they're meeting with that success coach at least monthly for that
Mhm.
first year of business.
Okay, okay. So strong onboarding, some ongoing support beyond the onboarding process. What about tools and processes that help with the daily day-to-day, like, job estimating or job management or, customer service or customer experience things? Like what will a new owner have from Lime's home office to support those things?
Yeah, so our total tech stack is actually included of everything they would need, from project management to managing with the subcontractors and the ability
Okay.
for those subcontractors to upload documentation real time on that job to that software. That can be
Mhm.
shared with the homeowner, that can be kept internal to our CRM, working with the client to get scheduled, to provide the estimate, to provide the proposals. All the proposal softwares are included in that tech stack as well. The
Mhm.
billing, the accounts receivable, the reconciling is included in that tech stack
Mhm.
also. So from bottom to top, we have the infrastructure ready for this business to really be scaled.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, very good. So there isn't much that an owner has to bring to the table. They can trust and rely on the systems provided to give them all the tools, processes, systems, reporting to get the business done.
That's right.
Okay, good,
They
good.
need to bring a good attitude and a smile.
Good attitude, smile, good relationships, good community. Good. I love it.
That's right.
Um, let's talk a little, just think through anyway the long term value of any business is important when you decide, do I want to be in this business or not? What would you say makes lime painting a compelling long term business for the right owner?
Because it's so scalable and it's repeatable, right?
Mm.
So look at our guys that are, 6, 7 years in now operating in 2 states that are across the country from each other. It's one tech stack like I was mentioning. It's one sales book. It's 40 services, but it's the 40
Mhm,
services, right? There's a lot
mhm,
is we can really scale off of the systems that are in place. So, using the subcontractors, these what we call them, Scott, high luxury, high-end stuff,
mhm.
professional artisans. These are
Okay, okay.
these are artisans of their
Mhm,
trade. They really know what they're doing. They're professional applicators.
mhm,
So we're relying on them to do these jobs, but we're certainly scaling with W-2 employees through their production managers, our sales managers, our assistant production managers. So we can really effectively build a team, have the relationships with the subcontractors, continue to drive the marketing engagement through our sales managers. And that's really when I was mentioning we've got that step back that,
mhm,
okay, now I'm really managing your managers. Well, there's the
mhm,
enterprise value, right?
mhm, mhm.
And then we start looking at, okay, if you don't want to, you're looking to sell your business after 8, 9 years. Well, in the painting world, we're probably looking at 3 to 5.5 times, owner benefits ultimately.
Okay, okay. Very good. Austin, that's super helpful. Last question, and I typically like to end these types of conversations with some clear, memorable point for viewers to, carry with them. So if someone's only going to remember one thing, right, about lime painting after they watch this conversation that you and I just had, what would you like that to be?
I want them to remember that LIME stands for love, integrity, mission, and excellence. We're a very, very high valued brand and
Mhm,
family and, group of entrepreneurs. And that's who we want to work with and,
mhm.
bring on to our family. And that's so much more than just painting.
Yeah, I love it. Love, integrity, mission, and what's the E?
Excellence.
Excellence. Thank you. I had it when I started the sentence. I just lost it by the end, but that's great. Love,
You'll never forget
integrity,
it now.
mission, and excellence. No, I will not. Thank you, Austin. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for answering the questions, giving a nice, clear overview, and ideally, we'll spark some curiosity, and we'll have some folks to introduce you to.
I love it. I appreciate it greatly, Scott.
Did this spotlight spark your curiosity about lime painting? Are you wondering how your unique skills and background prepare you for running a premium home services business? Book a no cost, no obligation 20-minute call with me, and let's explore how line painting could fit into your future.